Well, we're right on time, so I think I should get started. Hi everybody, welcome to my Vectorworks training, my Funday Friday. I hope that this really relates to people who really relate to this. So today I thought I'd go through some stuff that I do with roofs. This is a manual that I've written. It's available on my website, and it goes through a lot of the strategies that I use in dealing with roofs. So I'm going to go through this. I'm just going to push it off to the other side, use it as a bit of a guide, a bit of an aide-memoire, so that what we're going to cover today is how to create a roof on 2 stories. We're going to look at this part here, where I break up a complex roof into chunks and how I deal with a more complex roof. And then I'm going to also look at how I put in something like a skylight or a dormer window and what options we've got for that. So I hope you're looking forward to this. It's going to take a while. There's a lot to go through. So first of all, I'm going to start deleting the roofs that I've created. I'll turn off some of the layers I don't need, and we'll have a work through that. So let's just delete that roof. We don't need that roof. And we don't need that floor. We need this roof, so I'm going to delete that roof as well. And we're going to just mainly work on this floor here. So don't forget, if you've got a question, type it into the chat so that I can see it, and we'll see how it goes. So the easiest way to create the roof is to select all the walls. Let's just go here. I'm just going to select all my walls, go to AEC on the menu bar, and choose Create Roof. Now I do this so often that what I've done is to add that to my right mouse click. So often you'll see me go right click and you'll find that Create Roof is right here on my right mouse click, and that's because I use it a lot and I customize my workspace to add that to it. And it's really easy to add it if you want. You just go to these 3 lines here, go to Customize. Now what I've been playing with is a menu item, and I've been playing with the object context menu, and here you can see I've got roof face and create roof, and all I did was grab them from the side here, and I'm not sure where they are, so I'm going to search for roof. They're in AEC or architect. There it is there, create roof, and you just drag that one across, stick it where you want it, and that'll add it to your right click. So to me it's a really useful technique to update your Vectorworks by adding the things you need to your right click. Okay, so let's save that and we'll move on. Hey, don't forget, if you've got a question, type it in the chat so that I can see it. I'm pretty sure I can see the chat. I'll just make sure I've got it, live chat. So if you type, I should be able to see it. So I've got that, I've got the wall selected, right click, let's create the roof. And this brings up the roof dialog box. Here it is, I'll just drag it across, it's on the other screen. So here we are, we've got what kind of eave we want. We've got square, which is perpendicular to the slope of the roof. We've got vertical, which is I use most of the time. And we've got the double, well, horizontal, I hardly ever use that. I can't think of a good reason for that one. And we've got the double, which does a little bit of a soffit and an up. So let's go vertical. How thick is my vertical roof? Well, it's about 156 inches, 4 inch for the truss, plus the purlin, plus the cladding on top. Bearing inset, my walls are 140, so it's going to sit here on that part of the wall. The roof pitch is 25 degrees. Now something I did the other day, people didn't notice, was I went 4 in 12. And you just put the colon in, and it allows you to do 4 in 12, 6 in 12 if you want, and all sorts of stuff. I want 25 degrees. Where I live, we just think about it in degrees. 2700 millimeters, that's 9 feet. Got an overhang of just 300 millimeters. To me that's quite small, so let's make it 24 inches, 600 mil. My hole cuts are vertical. I'm going to stick it on my roof layer, so it'll automatically go on the right layer now. And I could use styles. I'm not going to cover styles today, but a styled roof allows you to create a complex roof. And we're going to stick it on the roof class. We've got I hit the escape one too many times. Let's create the roof. So I've got to go through that all over again. So so 25 degrees, 2700, vertical, that was 600 there, hole cut vertical. We can have splayed or square. Now this will affect, now the hole cut will be if I punch a hole in the roof, so I better make that vertical, or if I put in a dormer window, or if I put in a skylight, it'll affect those things. So I went to Style, Roof Preferences, Create Accessories such as attics, soffites, and fascias. We can always make those later. Now this one here is important, retain original objects. There are times where I turn that off, so I delete the objects I used to create, especially when I'm using a polygon to create my roof. Okay, so that creates my roof. My roof's in 3D, there it is there. It should be on my roof layer, roof 1 layer. Let's just turn that on, and we'll change that to show state modify others. Now my walls at the moment have currently got peaks on them. So I need to select all my walls because I just practiced this the other day to check it out. So I'm going to use my select similar tool. It's selecting objects by their type and their class. And I'm going to use the AEC command, which is to delete wall peaks. So this will take care of deleting all of those peaks for me. Remove tops and bottoms. And you can see it puts all my walls back the way they belong. So now they follow that roof going around. But what I really want to do with this roof is I want to make this roof a gable at this end, a gable at the other end, a gable here. Sweet. So now you can see that there it is. There's my walls, and they're not fitting to my roof. So I'm going to go back to that AEC menu. I've selected all my walls with my select similar tool, back to my AEC menu, and this time I'm going to use the fit walls to objects. Now in this particular command, it really works well if you have your 3D information on the other layer. Now I can use the same layer, the floor 1 layer, but it'll work so much better if I use the roof 1 layer. There we are. So now my walls fit up into my roof. So that's a trick I use a lot. Now I'm just going to show you something else. So what I'd like is I don't like this part down here. I want it to be like a mono pitch right across here, or a single plane right across that area. So back to my selection tool, back to my roof. I'm going to select this plane here and make that a gable. Now sometimes when I do this, it fails and tells me it's too complex. There it is. But I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to carry on. I want that to be a gable as well. And you can see it made that part, and I want that to be a gable. Now by doing all 3 of those, you can see what it's done. It's actually created this whole part of the roof here as a single roof plane. Now if you wanted this roof not to have this little notch out of it, there's another trick I've got, which is the reshape tool. Now the reshape tool works on the original outline that was used to create the roof. If I use the minus sign, I can get rid of that point, and Vectorworks now has rebuilt that roof so that it covers over that little area in here. Now I just think that's really cool that you can manipulate the roof so much like that. Now if you take it the next step, you could also get rid of this part here. What do I want to do now? I want to move one of these handles. So I'm going to move this handle here, move it down, touch this point over here so I get an alignment point. And I've changed that roof dramatically from its original thing. Now you'll notice that my walls no longer fit, so back to selecting my walls. Let's go AEC and fit walls to objects again. Now I often call this fit walls to roofs because that's what it used to be called, but it really, literally, fits to objects rather than just roofs. So I can create any shape and have it fit. So I think that's kind of fun that you can make those sort of changes. Now the next step is that this building actually has a roof upstairs. Now if you've got any comments or questions, don't forget to type them into the chat area. I'm looking at it. Just if you've got any questions, don't forget, type a chat and let me answer your question. So the next part I want to do is I want to take out this part of the upstairs roof. So I'm going to change layers now. I'm going to go back to my layer options here. I want this to go back to show snap others. I want to be in floor 2. I'm going to select my walls, and I want to change this and create a polygon. Now this is a rectangle, so I could just use a rectangle to do this, but I wanted to show you a trick when the walls are complex. AEC, create polys from walls. Now what I want is the gross area polygon. I want to cut the old roof, or the lower roof. I want to cut the lower roof out to match that shape. So I've now got that shape. I'm going to move that to my roof 1 layer. Let's go to roof 1. And let's have a look. So that's my roof and that's my polygon. I'm going to select them both. Right click on my polygon and choose clip surface. Now the idea behind clip surface is it's going to punch a hole in that old roof. So now when I turn on my walls below, turn on my roof, turn on my walls above, you can now see I've cut out the lower roof in preparation for those walls above. So now I'm going to make roof floor 2 the active layer. Let's select all those walls. You can see I've got a peak here. AEC, let's create a roof, vertical. It's got a different wall height because the walls are a different height upstairs. It's going to go on roof 2 and it's unstyled still. Okay. This one wants to be a gable at that end and a gable at this end as well. So there it is. Now you can see here clearly what I need to do here is to select those walls. I can just select one if I like. AEC, fit walls to objects, and fit that to roof 2. You've got to make sure you get this to the right roof, otherwise it's not going to be what you want. So now let's turn on roof 2. How's that looking? It's looking pretty cool. And we've also got a foundation that I created earlier. So now I've got my complete roof. If I select something like that wall there, I can turn on my clip cube. I quite like the clip cube. So let's grab the clip cube and I just want to extend it that way, and the top and the bottom. There we are. So now I can see whether it's working properly. So if we move this face through, you can see what happens as I get past the lower roof. So there's the lower floor, there's the lower roof, there's my little cutout, goes through, and then I go upstairs and I just see the 2 floors like that. Let's turn off the clip cube. So that's my suggestion for that style of roof. And I'm going to put a dormer window in this one here. Now, a dormer window really needs to have a symbol. I haven't got one, I don't think. Let's have a look at my file. No, there's no symbol here, so I'm going to create a little window. I'm going to use my window tool, place a window. I want this window to be not very wide or not very tall. So the width, about 4 feet wide, the height about 900, because I just want a little window. I want this to be, let's have a look, casement. Is there a double casement? Let's make it custom. And I really need to go into the settings and edit this. So my custom configuration here, let's have a look at my custom configuration. We want that to have 2 columns and okay, 2 equal columns like that. So I've now got my custom window. So I'm going to make this into a symbol. Modify, create symbol, And this is going to be my dormer window. Plug-in origin is fine. Wheel-based is fine. Insert in walls true. Full break with caps. And assign to class. I don't think I've got one for this one yet, so I'm going to call it. I need to create a new class. Door-main. I put all my doors and windows on the same class. But that's just me. Okay, so okay, every time I use that, oh, dormer windows already in use. That's weird. Okay. Dormer window symbol. That can't be in use. And okay. Now, because I've created my dormer window symbol, it should now appear here. Oh, let's go back up to here. Where's it gone? All resources. That's what I couldn't see. Roof. There's my walls. There's my plants. There's my dormer window symbol. So I'm going to drag that dormer window symbol. My roof should highlight. Let go. And it should have put that in my roof. Let's go and make sure. Floor 1, roof 1, maybe that's the problem. Ah, there it is. You can see the roof highlights in red. This is what I was looking for. I need that whole highlighting. So I'm going to move right to the edge if I can. Let go. Because what I'd really like is I'd like that dormer window, this one here, to be put right on the edge of my building. Now, when I selected the roof previously, I had one of these little blue boxes or a handle at the end of each plane of the roof. But you can see I've also got one here right below my dormer. If I click on that, it should open my dormer window settings. What have I got? I've got two, one for the roof, that's for the roof, and one for the dormer window. So this controls the settings for my window. Do I want a trapezium roof? Do I want a shed roof? And so on. And you can see my shed roof is too high. So let's go back to that. So what have we got here? So we've got here, we're going to center it vertically. Okay, or we're going to have an offset from the top. We're going to have let's have an offset from the top. We don't want this to be very high. From the top, we want about 250. So we've got an offset from the building line, 5 millimeters. If I make it 0, it'll be right on top of that, handle. These two will be on top of each other just about. I've also got the offset from the corner, so I can choose the center of my dormer window from the corner, which is quite cool. So let's make that 1500, 5 feet along. How wide do we want this to be? At the moment it's about 8 feet. We want that to be about 5 feet. We've got a slope of 8 degrees. We can't really make it much less, but we can drop this down. And an overhang. So let's try that out. Let's click on OK. What's happened? You can see we've moved that along. Now this symbol here is not dropping my window down the way that I wanted it to. So if we go back into here, let's edit our settings, edit our 3D component. Here it is here. Now the window is, let's have a look here, 2100 high. Let's make that much lower. Let's make it 1800. 6 feet. Exit the symbol. That should have dropped my window down a little bit. I'd really like that to be much lower. Now let's put that vertically. There, that's better. Okay, so now I've got my window in where I want it. My overhangs here are just a little bit too much. Let's make that, let's go back to there. Much too much, 300. And we've got the wall thickness here, the roof thickness. I need to change those. I'm going to change this angle to 5 degrees. In fact, I'm going to put a membrane roof on there. I can make it 2 degrees. So there it is. I've got a membrane roof on there, much tidier. I need to have a roof thickness of around 6 inches again, 150. And so if you've got any questions, don't forget to put a comment so I can answer it for you. So that's my dormer window. Now some people ask, they'd actually like to cut this piece of the roof out. And I think the way we could do it, let's just try it. So I'm going to put this dormer window, I'm going to put that dormer window back with, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this effectively, but let's make that 150. Cool. Now let's find that bit of roof. So people want to cut that out. So a rectangle tool from that point. Let's hold the B key down. Where's it gone? I want it to go from that corner across to wherever that other part of the roof is. So the B key should give that to me. There it is there. Now just check that again. So I'm concerned, oh there it is there, I can see the window. There's the window there. Where's my B key? So that should be the part to cut out. So now if I select that and that, let's see if clip surface does what I want. I'm worried that it's going to chop out my dormer window, but there we, okay, cool. So it didn't chop out my dormer window. So there's my wall below, and there's the wall above. Now the texture for those, you've got to be careful when you texture those to make sure that they texture well. But that's pretty cool. Right. So that was my little symbol. I can get rid of that. I'll change that back to show snap modifier. Let's get rid of that. So there we are. So we've covered the how to cut a hole, how to create a dormer. So what's next? I covered how to cut some of that stuff out. So this is the other roof I wanted to do. So I'm going to put a roof on here just using these shapes here. These are polygons. Select them both, right click, and I don't want to add them together just yet. So here I'd like to make do I want to add them? I'm going to make a copy of those. There's something I wanted to show you, so I'm just going to grab those two, right click and add surface to join them together. I'm going to make a roof out of this. So right click, create roof, vertical, roof pitch, yep, everything's pretty much the same. So I'm going to make that a gable, make that one a gable. No, back. I've forgotten which way I want it to go. So make that one a gable, that one a gable, that one a gable. Now I tend to use my keyboard shortcut for that. On a Windows machine it's Alt-G, on a Macintosh it's just the Command plus G. So I've got my roof, I've got gables where I want, but now I've decided I want this to be a mono-pitch roof. So I'm going to change this angle to 8 degrees, and I'm going to change it to the entire roof. And so now the entire roof is 8 degrees. So then I can make that end a gable, make this one a gable, and you can see I've got this strange combination of almost flat roof here and a very strong sloping roof there. Let's make that one a gable and this one a gable. So now what I've done is I've made that complex roof into a single plane roof, or what I call a mono-pitch roof. These are quite popular at the moment. Now if you wanted to have two of those monopane or two mono-pitch roofs where they joined into each other, what we'd have to do is to create that as two separate roofs. So I'm just going to go back. So there they were, two separate roofs. So I create that into a roof. So right click, create roof there. And what we're going to do this, we're going to do that at 10 degrees. And so gable there. And I'm just using my keyboard shortcut. Gable there and a gable here. So that's one roof going that way. Now we want the other one to be a gable, this one here. And it might be that we have to have this at a different elevation. So we'll go right click, create roof, 10 degrees. This time we're going to drop the elevation down because we just might have to, 8 inches just to make sure that that works and we can get one underneath the other. So that's a gable, gable, gable here, and now I should have two monopitch roofs. And you can see I've got to be careful because they're joining one into the other. Don't forget my trick I showed you earlier on, which was to use the reshape tool. And I can just grab hold of that, move it back. Where's my B key? So let's put my B key so I can see the other rectangle. Now on this end here, I want to join, I just need my selection tool. So this end of the roof here, I want that gable to join into the wall that would come up. So what I need to do, I need to make the overhang at this end 0. So that if there were walls under there, those two join together. And you can see it's pretty close here. Man, I don't want to put the flashing in that roof. Anyway, so that's how I could do it, doing it that way. And let's get rid of those. Now this is just a little bit too long, I found out last night. Okay, so there we are, I've got two roofs. So I've got some walls underneath, and I've got two roofs. Now, I've got two different roof angles coming together. Now I could do all of this in Vectorworks, but sometimes you end up with a roof that's too complex and Vectorworks struggles to give you the roof that you want. How do I do that? So I make that one into a roof. Now this is 25 degrees again. Make this one into a roof. Right click. Create roof, 25 degrees again. So we got this one wants to be a gable. This one wants to be a gable. And a gable here. And that one's a gable. So how do I get those two roofs to join together nicely? So they're at the wrong elevation. So let's just move them. The bottom offset 2700. That should sit them on top of the walls. If not, I'm going to use the fit walls to objects anyway. So that's what I've got. Got those roofs. Let's just hide all my other layers. So the challenge is that I've got this complex roof and I can't get these two to join well, but I found that they can do this. So there's a trick I use. Now previously, if you remember, I used a technique called clip surface to chop that part and my dormer window part out. Now I can use that again in this case. The way that I do it is to select both of these roofs, and there's a command in Vectorworks called modify, convert, copy to lines. Now the convert copy to lines looks at this in 3 dimensions from a 2D plan view and calculates where one roof passes through the other. It's super cool. Let's choose that. Let's use hidden line rendering, and let's go inside my group. I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut again to get inside a group. Now, isn't that superb? Look what it's done. Vectorworks has calculated where this roof penetrates the other roof. It's just magic. Now, it's even cooler if these roofs were different angles. So let's do something silly and let's make that one 15 degrees on one side with a different roof height. And maybe we can make that 29 degrees. It might still work. But let's look at that in 3D. What does it look like? Oh, it's yeah. Okay. So does it still work? So let's select both roofs, modify, convert. Now I do this a lot. I could easily add this to my right click, couldn't I? Convert copy to lines. Okay. And let's go inside my group. And that's what Vectorworks has given me. So now I know exactly how much to cut out of this roof and how much I can use to cut out of this roof here. I need my polygon tool. This is what a lot of people call this the paint pot mode. And it's called the inner boundary mode. But you click and it fills that with fill. Now this one, click once, shift key, click again, and it joins those two faces together. Now I just need these polygons. My group's done its job, so I can throw it away. Paste in place. Where's it gone? Paste in place. Oh, did I not copy it? Let's go back. Copy. Delete and paste in place. There we are. So what do we need? Now this roof is going to cut away from the roof behind here. Now you can see that this roof actually projects just this ever so slightly over here. So I need to edit this 2D polygon with my reshape tool, and I just need to make sure that I cover all of the roof that I don't want. So this polygon and that roof, right click, clip surface and delete. And you'll notice that this has now chopped that roof. Okay. Paste in place again. Let's get rid of that polygon. So this polygon needs to chop away that roof. Right click, clip surface, delete that shape. So how is that looking? Now to me that is a pretty cool trick, that you can actually get those roofs to fit so lovely. So this roof, it won't have a chance to go all the way back. It's just an awful detail, sorry. But that's the technique I use to join those complex roofs. Hey Graham, thanks for your question. What a great question. Is there any difference or benefits in creating a singular roof faces over and united create roof object? Let me have a think about that. Because okay, so let's try that, Graham. So let's get rid of that roof. Let's get rid of that roof. Let's go back to the floor. We'll get rid of those two polygons. Let's select all those. So if I right click and I choose roof face, you'll notice that I can't create a roof face from the walls. But I could easily draw a polygon. So let's go through this. So I can't use that technique. So number one, if I'm doing a roof face, I have to draw the shape of the roof that I want. So let's do that. Let's do that. Add those two together and add surface. So the challenge I've got, Graham, is that when I do it that way, I've got a polygon, but I actually have to create that polygon with the exact size that I want my roof face to be. I'll show you what I mean. Let's create a roof face from that. So right click, I can create a roof face. And now the dialog box is different. You'll notice there's a huge difference here. My axis Z is 227. The angle is 10 degrees. The thickness is 150. I've got an angle which is 10 degrees. And I can go, okay. Now I have to define the pitch line. So from there down to here, which way is going up. And it's created a roof for me like that. So it can work, and I think I can drop a dormer window on there. Let's make that 25 degrees so I can drop my dormer on. 25 degrees, so it should be a steep roof. Let's grab my dormer, and I can drop that on, and it'll work. So putting a dormer window on works just as well, Graham. You can see it does the same job there. Okay, so let's delete that whole roof. So is there any benefit? So I have to create the polygon if I do it that way. If I do the create roof method, so 2700 again, 25 degrees, back to 10 degrees for the mono pitch roof. But here, Graham, I can specify my overhang on that roof, and it'll use the walls and create the offset from that. Now, of course, I do need to do a lot more clicking because I've got to get rid of all those gables. I don't know if I can do the entire roof. No, it's because the entire roof grays out when I do the gable. Okay, so there's a lot more clicking here, Graham, to get rid of all of these. But I'll start using my keyboard shortcut for this, I think. Oh, of course, I want to get rid of that place. So why don't I just use my reshape tool and get rid of, let's get rid of that one, that one, that one. That'll make it a lot quicker for me to do that. Okay, so now I can go back to my selection tool, make that a gable, gable there. At some point this might fail, so I'm just going to keep going. Gable and gable there. How's that? Is that a gable? No, that one needs to be a gable. And that one's already a gable. So now I've got the same roof. Now it's taken more clicks, Graham, to get it that way. And I can still drop my dormer window on it. And it creates my dormer window. So you might, maybe you think that there's not much advantage in that. The one advantage I do have, Graham, is, let's get rid of that dormer. I didn't show you how to do that. So this handle controls the dormer window. So we say remove the object and bingo, it's gone. So what if, Graham, what if you didn't like this and the client didn't like this design, you had to redo it? I guess the answer is there is you could then start to put some of these back. Put that back as an eave, or put one of these back as an eave. So you could do that, but for me, I'll just recreate the roof, so there's really little advantage. I'm not sure whether the Soffit settings are going to do what you want. So it doesn't like putting the Soffits on that roof, so you haven't lost anything if you use a roof face. Now the trick with the roof face, you can still do the clip surface for the roof face. You can still put a dormer in. You can still put in a skylight. The only real difference, I guess, Graham, is that you have to put, when you do the roof face top, using the roof face technique, you really have to make sure that you create the roof the right shape. Is there a quick way to do that? Sure. Why don't we just select these walls here, use the AEC, what did I use before? Create polys from walls, using a gross area poly. So that'll give me the polygon. I'm going to double click to get my reshape tool. The minus signs, let's get rid of that. We don't want those handles there. And get rid of as many handles as you can. If you leave these blue handles in the middle of this line here, your roof face will think that they're a change in the roof. So get rid of them. Now we can use the offset tool, and we could offset by 600, by distance, offset the original, so 24 inches. And that gives me my offset there, so that I can now start to use that. Remember the B key, so I can use the B key. So right click, roof face, 2700, 10 degrees. And I can go B, so I want the outside of that, and there it is. So what do you think, Graham? Was that way quicker using the single plane? Now the trick that I did with the overlapping roofs, Graham, works with this as well. So if you've got two roof faces joining together, you can still use my trick with the convert copy to lines to get that to join and to take out the bit you don't want. So that still works. What do you think, Graham? Which one do you like? Was there an advantage one way or the other? If you know that you're going to have a mono pitch, maybe it's just quick to do that single, just to do it all at once anyway. Because you haven't lost much. You haven't lost the ability to put in a skylight. A skylight. Let's put in a skylight. We haven't done a skylight yet. So Skylight's made by a company called Velux. Let's search everywhere. Velux, one of these windows, curb mounted. Just going to download that. Okay, let's drag that onto my roof. There it is there. Now you can see I've put in my Velux. But what's it done? It thinks it's a skylight. So click on that and we'll say edit skylight. And now it's a skylight window. The skylight is measured from its blue handle, from its center point. So that's how far back from the wall it is. So if we go back to here and we go, okay, offset from building line 0, you can see the center of the skylight has gone there. So if we knew how big the skylight was, so we're going to measure to the center of that skylight. Where's it gone? That handle there. So offset from building line, let's bring it in by 3 meters. What's that? 10 feet. To there. Now the distance along this line here is also, now let's just go back to that because I thought it was measured to there. So I'm going to measure it, use my measuring tool. Now a quick way for me to measure things is to use my it's just use my selection tool. So if I go to a point here and I hit the G key, Vectorworks creates a floating datum. Now if I just move that datum point to the start here, you can see that's 117 millimeters. If I come over to there, that's nearly 1800. What was my offset here? My offset from building line was supposed to be 3 meters, but that's nothing like 3 meters from there to there. So it's got to be measuring to something different. Okay, I'm going to use that again. G key from there down to here. And my X direction is 8320. So let's click on this. 8320. So that's the distance it's measured from this end down, I think. So let's make that 3 meters. And there it is there. So it's 3 meters from there to there. But the offset from the building line, let's see if it's from this point here. G key to the center, 3.6 to that point. Oh, so it is from that. So let's go to that point. That should be the outside of my wall. G key there. So 3 meters to the center of that and 3 meters from the start of the roof. So it's from the wall there, 3 meters down, and from the face of the wall, 3 meters in. And that's what those numbers are relating to. The 3 meters and 3 meters. And that's the only way to move that dormer window is to put the dimensions in. Now, sometimes what I do is I look at the floor plan. So I hold down the B key, look at the floor plan and say, actually, I want my skylight to be here, but I want it to be a certain distance from that. So I want to come up and then across. So we'll go move, just using my move tool. So I want it to be 600 that way and 600 that way. And it'll give me a location. So now what I can do is I can calculate where this needs to be relative to that. Or now that I know what I'm measuring, I could just use my dimension tool, go to the B, so from the outside of there to the center of there, and from that face to there, and I should be able to put those dimensions in and get that skylight to end up here. So there's my skylight, so that needs to be 5820 and 1484. What a silly number, but there you are. Okay. Now it's pretty close. Now I don't know what I've done wrong with this one. 5820. Let's go. Click. 5820. And it didn't give me, so I got this height correct, but this one's not correct. And I'm not sure whether it's measuring from a different point, but I just use that again and make sure I get it spot on next time. So it's in the wrong place. Let's go back and find the center of that one. So it's another 600 is what I need to move it. So plus 600. And there it is in the right spot. Get rid of my little rectangle. And so now my skylight is in the right place relative to my plan below. Now this skylight here, as you can see, it's sitting directly on top of the roof. That's just the way that it's designed. When you create a skylight, that you create an origin for the skylight. So there's an insertion point, and that insertion point sits on the roof. If this is too high, and it probably isn't because that's a flashing that goes underneath here, and then there's a curb on top. But if you do create a skylight and it's too high, just change the insertion point and it can drop down. So I think I've just about done everything I wanted to do today. It's actually really quick. We're a little bit quicker than normal. If anyone's got any other questions, hey, let's just have an open session for questions. Anything else you want me to cover? There's some people here. You tell me what you'd like me to, you ask me a question. I've got 15 minutes. If you want to answer a question, I'll give you an answer. Graham, just in case you didn't see it at the beginning, I was running through this manual here. It's one of the manuals off my website, Creating Roofs, and it just goes through all the stuff that we went through earlier on. Well, if there's no other questions, then what I suggest is we just cut it short. So thank you for coming. Hey, if you want to get into this kind of stuff all the time, become a subscriber on my website. There's so much going on there. I'll just find it for you and I'll show you what it looks like. So this is what we're doing at the moment on my website. So we've got these foundation courses. We've got all these courses available, tips and tricks. There's all my manuals. You can go and get the manual. There's my roof manual there. We're doing class and layer mapping recently, stories, layers and levels. So there's a lot going on. There's a whole community here where you can talk to each other. You can get your friends. And we've got a calendar. So this week we're looking at the fence tool. We're looking at the fence tool, 3D modeling. We've got a getting started webinar. Hey, I hope you enjoyed watching that. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate seeing you guys there, and thank you very much for your comments. It makes me feel like I'm not all on my own. Thanks a lot. See ya.